So this morning, if you're with me, I told you we were going to be covering everything from photography to finance. It's time to talk about numbers now, but we always do it in a fun way. And so I'm going to welcome to the stage my personal friend who I've worked with for several years and who is a whiz with numbers. He will make you more money than you've ever had before and do it in a really fun way. Dane Cohen from Management One. Come on out here, Dane. Welcome to the main stage.
What's up, Vegas? Thank you, Samantha. Guys, let's give it up for the Boutique Hub for putting together this incredible education here at Magic. Go see the Boutique Hub, my good friends, right over there in their booth. So like Samantha said, we are going to talk some numbers today, and I promise I will make it as fun as possible because there is nothing more fun than having a cash flow positive business. So we're going to jump in. We have a lot to cover today. And for anyone who here registered for the private label tour? Okay, we got some hands up. So we are going to be going right from the stage. We're going to learn a little bit about margin and the foundations of profit. We're going to talk private label, and then we're going to head out and go right to the sourcing show. So if that is something that you're looking to learn about private label, we'll talk about it in this presentation, and then we're going to go ahead to sourcing. And I have my good friend Sam. Sam, say hello. Hi, Sam. Sam's going to be joining us on the tour and be coming up on stage for a little bit. He is the expert on all things with development of private label goods. Okay, so who am I? That's me. I'm Dane. I work for a company called Management One. We do open to buy and inventory planning for retailers, essentially getting retailers to profitability and the ultimate goal of cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. So this is my 9th time speaking at Magic, so I'm so thrilled to be back. I started my career in the industry here in 2009, so it's great to be back here. And let's jump in. We're talking your brand, your margin. Just a quick note. If you would like a copy of the presentation, we're going to be putting some formulas. We're going to be putting numbers up here. If you don't want to take notes and just want a copy of the presentation, you could just scan that QR code. I'll have it up at the end again, but just want to give you that heads up. And just real quick, to my friends in the back, if we could just get the next slide on the confidence monitor, that would be great. Okay. All right. So, let me ask a question. Who here could tell me what the largest expense in their retail business is? Who here is in the retail, a retail store owner, a buyer? What is the largest expense in your business? Shout it out. Okay, we have inventory. What else? Anybody? Employees, payroll. Anyone else? Rent. Okay. So we have rent, we have payroll, we have inventory. 52% of all your cash, 52% of all of the cash that you spend in your business is going to your inventory. It is by far and away the largest expense in your business. So when we talk about what can make the difference between you as a successful retailer, as a profitable retailer, it all starts with your inventory. It all starts there. So the retail business model is pretty simple, right? We come here, we buy some wholesale goods, we sell it at retail price. The difference is your gross profit, you cover your expenses, and then you get your net profit. That's your formula right there. But as we all know, running a retail business is anything other than simple. So here are all the expenses you have to cover in your business. And I strongly urge you, take a picture of this, download the presentation, because this is for a women's retail business. Sam, if you could just tell them I need the next slide on the confidence monitor. Okay. Look at this. This is where you should be aiming for your business to be ratioed in your expenses. So this is a great way to start out and look at the end of the day, what does my gross profit need to cover? And here is that list of expenses. So it is very complicated to really be able to succeed as a retail owner, because you have to manage not just the flow of inventory and your profit, but you need it to ultimately cover all of your expenses while still generating cash flow through your sales of inventory. So when we talk about your role in your business, who here is a buyer? Come on, interact. Who here is a buyer? Okay, guess what? You're not buyers. Buyers go and they purchase something, right? I'm a buyer when I walk into a store. You are investment brokers. You are here to make an investment in inventory that will have a return on your investment. So, let's talk about the foundations of retail. Oh, I need those seats, I know. Yeah. Let's talk about the foundations of retail. We have markup, we have markdowns, gross profit, your expenses, and then your net profit. So we're gonna go through, we're gonna talk a little bit about each one of these, and then we're gonna discuss how it relates to private label goods. Okay, so let's first talk about markup. This is the foundation of all of your profit, right? It sets the ceiling of how profitable you could be in your retail business. It's your initial markup. So pricing strategy, it all starts with your pricing strategy. Let's take a look and let's do a little experiment. Could you help me out on this experiment? Come on, Vegas. Okay, I'm gonna show you this lovely dress. It's a little black dress. The shell is made of 69% polyamide, 31% wool. It has a 97% polyester lining, 3% spandex. It's made in China, and it has a designer name. So it's a brand name. Help me out, what would you, if you were putting this dress in your retail store, what would you price this dress at retail price? Don't be shy. $228, thank you. You've been a very great audience participator. My friends, Magnolia Moon, what would you price this at? $89, come on, let's get some more answers. Just shout it out. $100. $125? Okay, come on, it's like the price is right. Give me one more from the back. $99, $58, okay. Now, I'm gonna show you another dress. Now, this is, the shell is 90% polyamide, 10% spandex, lining is 98% polyester, 2% spandex. Very similar. It's imported, and it's a very popular brand. But now I'm gonna tell you the wholesale cost is $25. Now help me out, what are you pricing it at? 88, 125. It's a high markup, you're trying to get a lot of margin there. 69. So let's see the actual prices. This, I don't think you can see it all the way at the bottom, but this is $998. And this is $69. Good guess. Who was that? My friend over there. Good guess. So this is all to show you that pricing is completely the value that you see. The minute I tell you the wholesale cost, you make an automatic judgment on what the retail price would be. What we want to make sure of, right, is that you are pricing based on the value, not the cost. And I'm going to show you exactly what this adds up to. So price based on value, not on the cost. What is your customer willing to pay? Those two dresses were essentially made of the same fabrics. One was $998, the other was $69. So, pricing for profit, let's go through this. We look at markup in terms of your initial markup in percentage, right? So here we have a 52.5 times markup and a 55% markup. That's the difference on a $9 item at cost. If you price it at retail, 99 cents. 99 cents, that's it. So you're getting 2.5 more initial markup points, and really it all equals 99 cents. Now let's gameplay that out over the entirety of your business. Doesn't seem like a big deal when I say something's $19 versus $19.99. But if your annual sales are $1 million and we set your markdowns at 20%, this difference ends up being an additional $30,000 in bottom line net profit. That 99 cents, if you put it across your entire store, that's $30,000 in your pocket. And it's free. That is free money. So let me ask you a question. When you are pricing, who here just does like I'm just gonna double the wholesale price or double it and add a few dollars? Your pricing sets the foundation of how profitable you can be. And small increases really add up. So just $1 difference, when you put that across your whole store, could be $30,000 additional money in your pocket to invest in your business, to get a new car, whatever you want to do. Those are bottom line net profit dollars. So once we price the goods, then we get it in the store. How are you managing your inventory, right? And we work with hundreds and hundreds of retail clients. This is what we do. We get in the weeds and we really analyze the business. But here are the questions we want to ask. Do I have too much? Do I have too little, right? Am I overbought, underbought? Am I turning my inventory? Am I rotating through? Is it turning at the rate I want it to turn? And am I keeping up with the seasonality of my sales? Okay? Here is where it all starts. If you are not measuring this at a department class and subclass level, you don't know what is performing in your business, and you don't know what is putting cash in your pocket. So when we think of a department, let's say the department is apparel, and let's look at outerwear, right? There's a big difference between a heavy winter coat and a denim jacket. If you are categorizing everything as a coat, and that includes a down puffer and a light spring jacket, how do you know what's actually moving the needle in your business? So all great inventory management has to start with a great merchandise hierarchy. Your point of sale needs to be set up with a really smart, really not too granular, but t-shirts that got cut off, but we want to see t-shirts, graphic t-shirts versus basic t-shirts, because they both behave differently. Sometimes they have different seasonality, different patterns, different trends. So we really want to make sure we're classifying our data. Once we classify and we start answering those questions by category, do I have too little? Do I have too much? We can really start playing offense, okay? The biggest thing as a buyer that you can do to grow your business is to take risk, right? You're coming here, you're seeing new trends. Part of being a buyer is having an intuition and taking risks that will ultimately grow your business. But we need to take calculated risks. We need to take risks based on data and based on information. So when you have that, you could start playing aggressively. If you know that last year, you're coming here, you're buying, and last year at this time, you were crushing it in skirt sales. You didn't have enough, you couldn't keep them in stock. You could come here and take bigger risks in that category. And so it's important for a lot of reasons. One, if you place your orders aggressively in the categories you know are gonna work, it means you will have the goods on the floor when you need them. You become more important to vendors. When you could place bigger orders and really step up and lean into their best-selling categories, you become more important to them. And it keeps your customer focused. Because when you're going around and you're not using data and you're just buying a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you have Betsy in your mind and you have Jamie in your mind and you have Mary in your mind, and you're trying to buy for all the different customers, you end up with a little bit of everything and a whole lot of nothing. And this is the difference between a narrow and deep merchandising strategy, that's your aggressive merchandising strategy, and a wide and thin merchandise strategy. This is wide and thin. You get a little bit of everything and a whole lot of nothing. So let's use this example. What is the number one reason that retailers get over assorted and have too much inventory? We think about overbuying as just a problem of buying too much, but there's a reason behind it. Could anyone tell me? You're my all-star. Why do most retailers get overbought? Impulse buys at market. Who had a drink this morning? Anyone? No? Lunch? Yeah. Okay, what's one other? Give me one other. Why do we get overbought as buyers? We think the more we have, the more we sell. All good answers. You have too many vendors. You are here and you are making buys at too many vendors. It is the number one reason that stores get overbought, because they are trying to please everyone, and in the process, you end up with too much and it too thin, right? So that's the difference, narrow and deep versus wide and thin. The next thing, and this is my favorite statistic in all of retail, and we see it year after year after year. It varies by a percentage or two. 90% of the sales that you make within a month will come from inventory that is less than 10 weeks old. And 50% of all your sales will come from inventory that landed that month. Half of your sales will be from inventory that just landed in your store that very month. This emphasizes how important fresh new goods are. It is the lifeblood of a fashion retail business. Most fashion retailers have two types of customers. They have a customer that comes in because they want to see what's new, they want to see what's trending, they want to see what's happening. They will come in repeatedly just for that reason. The other type of customer is usually a sale customer, right? But freshness will drive people through your doors. And then what eventually happens, right? So let's think of your store as the produce section of a supermarket. What happens? We get the new inventory in, it's green, it's fresh, we love it, and then it sits. And then it sits. And then it sits. What happens to these bananas? They turn brown. Really, if you think about it, nature is the best merchandiser of all time. They literally give you the indicator when something needs a markdown. They just turn it brown. So what we see here, your store, right? You're not gonna, you sometimes look at your merchandise as, I'll just sell it later. It could sit there for a few more weeks. I have some more time to sell it. But that merchandise is turning brown before your very eyes. And no one wants to walk into a produce section of a supermarket and see all brown bananas. So this is why we have markdowns, okay? And this is one of the most controversial topics that we talk about. Actually, at Magic New York with Samantha, we're doing a presentation, we're doing a markdown masterclass. But markdowns cause a lot of anxiety for retailers. And I want you to reframe how you look at markdowns. Markdowns are a tool in your business. Every single retailer, no matter what you're selling, takes a markdown. It is a tool to drive demand for product that no longer is selling. And it is a tool for you to put cash back in your pocket, to go invest in better performing categories. Because let's put this together, right? We are tracking our data by category. We know what's selling and not selling. If something is slow selling, slow moving, sitting too long, take the markdown, put the cash back into the business, and go invest it in more productive categories. So a lot of times we sit with this fear, if I take a markdown, I'm gonna lose money. I came to Magic a few months ago, I spent money on this. I don't wanna take this markdown. You're not losing money. You're getting cash back and you're gonna smartly invest it in the right product. So, now we're gonna talk private label. Are the Girl Tribe girls here? I saw them here before. Girl Tribe is a client of ours, and they decided that they were gonna expand into private label. So we had been tracking their data for years, working together, understanding what classifications are selling, what's moving their business, what's driving cash back into their business. And they decided we're going to start investing in our own brand and our own private label. By the way, jumping to the end, they are now here at Central Hall with their own brand. Their private label became so big that they have a wholesale brand, okay? And how did they do this? So, the first thing is they decided, who is my customer? What does she buy? What does she need? What can we contribute to her lifestyle? And one of the things that they found is their biggest selling categories was graphics, graphic sweatshirts, graphic t-shirts. So they went out and they made female-focused graphics around sporting events. And it blew up. It blew up. They knew what sold, they knew what drove business, they understood their customer, and then they developed product after years of tracking their data and understanding the realities of their business. Within 1 year, they saw a 14.1 point increase in that initial markup and a 9.5 point increase in their gross profit. That is major for a retailer. Within no time, their private label became their #1 selling vendor and their #1 brand. And not just that, they went into categories that they never thought they could. Hats, stickers, hey, they even started doing stationery. This mug, how cute is that? Cup of ambition. We have any Dolly fans here? This expansion was only possible because they knew their customer and they knew the data behind their business. So let's talk about private label, because nobody knows you better than you. So why shouldn't you be capitalizing and getting that margin back in your business? So we're gonna do a tour of sourcing. I have Sam coming up in just a few moments, but I wanna first talk a little bit about why private label could be so beneficial to your business. And we're gonna take everything that we went over in the beginning of this presentation and apply it to how to develop private label. So first, let's look at pricing and margin control. When you develop your own brand, your own collection, your own label, right? You have full pricing control. You set that initial markup. You get to decide how much profit you can make on this piece of merchandise based on the value it will present to your customer. You have less comparison shopping. Who here hates when they're sitting in the store and someone's trying something on and then they're on the phone searching for it from another retailer? They're seeing if they could get it somewhere cheaper. When it is your label, you have ownership of that product. They can't price it from other people. And then finally, you have reduced markdowns. Private label, most regular line in women's businesses has a 65% full price sell-through. Private label averages an 80% sell-through for retailers. So that means less markdowns, more sell-through. You're building brand equity. So you actually have a label that you can build. Just a fun little story. I was at a retail business for many years, and we had a private label business. It became our number one vendor. And I would get people in the store all the time that would say, hey, I saw this at Bloomingdale's and it's on sale. Could you honor that price? It's our label. It wasn't anywhere else. We only sold it in our store. But people start to recognize it as this great brand, and they think they're seeing it everywhere, but only they can get it from you. So hot tip, if you're thinking about private label, it does not need to be the name of your store. Okay? You should have ambition to potentially develop multiple lines. It does not just need to be the name of your store. Hey, take your daughter's name and your pet name and merge them together. Take the two middle names of two of your children, merge them together. Take your great grandfather, great aunt's name, put it in a private label, do something fun. But you don't have to name it the name of your store. People get very tripped up on that. I actually like to see when the customer actually doesn't even know that it's yours. They just love this brand and they come and buy it. It allows you to have more focused assortments. You get to use that historical data and then put it to work, just like Girl Tribe did. Your data should inform your decisions, and with most major retailers that use private label, it should in no time become your number one vendor. And then finally, better inventory management and cash flow. This is what the game is all about. You can forecast better with private label. You are able to control the flow of inventory better. It's all about the right amount at the right time with the right exit strategy. So I'm gonna bring my good friend, Sam. Here, Sam. Come sit. Okay, so Sam and I are gonna do a tour of sourcing with whoever wants to come. We really encourage you come. But Sam knows the ins and outs of what it actually takes to develop private labels. So this is taking it from theoretical to actual practical application of what do I do if I want to start private label business in my retail store.
So fun fact, Dane was one of my top retailers who bought from me when I had a wholesale brand called Paper Crane a few years ago. So that was a nice full circle to come back and be able to work with you.
And then thank you, because then we used those sales to develop our private label.
Yeah,
so
that's what you did. And stop giving me orders.
But listen, that is the goal. You want to ultimately maybe compete with your own vendors. Okay, so Sam, I'm going to start with a question that we probably get the most. When do I know my store is ready to start engaging with private label?
So if Dane is like the angel of promoting private label, I think I'm more of like the devil advocate of starting private label. There's a lot of concerns or a lot of things that you got to think about as you're getting into private label. My friends, who have a lot of friends in the wholesale business and brands that are actually showing over there in the other room, they're like, why are you telling all the secrets? And when they come and hear me talk, or when they hear me share how challenging it is to do private label, I think they realize, wow, it is, you're really speaking the truth, and it is challenging. My expertise comes from having lost over, I would say, $2.1 million in doing my own private label and doing production in 8 different countries, really getting started aggressive and going after it hard and learn the hard way. So I would say for anyone that's looking to do private label, the most important thing to look at is, I think what Dane has been saying, is your data. If you're not tracking your data to see what is turning fast and how you're missing out on orders if you don't bring that product back in, if you're not catching that on a seasonal, weekly, monthly basis, then private label, you're not ready for. When you are ready, you're looking at numbers, you're looking at margins, you're looking at how fast it's turning, the velocity of the turn, and then you're starting to find, okay, what am I missing out on? And then you're finding good information by partnering up with vendors. I was the first place I would look, or the second place is to go to sourcing.
Yeah, I was going to say a great place to start with private label. We're going to talk about some sourcing options and actually how to start working with factories and how that can actually be accessible to you. But a great way to start if you want to start building brand equity and start, recognition of a label that you've created. There are a lot of vendors, especially on this side of the show, on the magic side, that will flip labels for you. Right? So you go to them, you could place your buy, and then they will allow you to remove their labels and put your label in it. So that is a great way to start testing the waters, to start trying and to start building that customer awareness around your brand before we talk about some of maybe the more advanced strategies.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of easier ways to get started. Another way I would say is taking labels from brands that you buy from and just getting them switched out. That would be the first way, especially if you're working in an area where there's a lot of competition in your neighborhood. There's a lot of resources in LA that will allow you to go and bring your products to them, and they'll switch the labels out to your own labels so that it looks, your brands are protected, or your label is protected in your store, and your competition is not trying to come in and figure out who it is because it's your brand that you're buying from or that you're putting on and you're selling at your store.
Yeah, and with, when I was a buyer in the retail business, that's how we started, right? We started testing the waters in that exact way. So we want to talk about risk, right? We talked about risk in the beginning of this presentation. So one way to mitigate risk is to start working with vendors. What about when you walk over and you're going to start looking at sourcing? How do we mitigate risk?
Well, a lot has changed. Before, if you were to walk over to sourcing, the minimum you would have to place is 300 at least to 800, depending on who you're working with. Today, manufacturers are willing to take orders as small as 60 to 65 pieces per style. But there's a lot of work that comes with it. And when you look at it on the cost savings, you're gonna get a lot of great prices. It's gonna seem like it's gonna be really cheap compared to what you can get at some of your brands. But when you start calculating the work it takes, all the time it takes, the people that you have to hire, the designers, the technicians, sourcing vendors, and a lot of time that you're gonna have to spend fitting and giving comments and communicating at late nights, talking to your factories, all of a sudden that margin that looked really promising for 65 pieces doesn't seem that interesting at all, or it doesn't seem as profitable at all. So I would say when you're ready, you're looking at products that margin-wise, you're gonna be able to make a really good margin, and you're gonna be able to keep in your store for a longer period of time.
Can I ask you a question on that? Because this is another question I get with a lot of retailers that we work with. Where do I start? Like, what's the let's say I want to go into dresses is a great selling category for me, but is that going to be a lot harder, maybe a design forward dress rather than a basic or a sweatpant or a hoodie? What's the difference between developing something like a t-shirt for private label versus a more intricate design?
Well, on a more intricate design, you're going to have to take a longer lead time. For a lot of these styles, you're going to need 2 to 3 months for it to get here from the time that you place it. And then you're going to have to look at minimums. So something that's a lot more trendier, you could probably turn faster when you order 24 to 36 pieces. But if you're doing overseas production, you might have to be placing 120 pieces. So even though the cost might be a lot lower than buying from your vendors or from brands, you're going to have a lot of risk by bringing in a lot more design styles. Another thing to look at is that you're going to want to also bring in more quantity to make, again, the margins make sense. Because you're not just calculating the cost it takes to bring it in, but there's a lot of other labor costs that goes into doing your own production.
Yeah, so a good example of that, when we first started dabbling, we did, there were this combo, kind of pajama pants, sweatpant. We did it in black, white, black, gray, and a light pink. We were able to get the quantity. We knew we would sell it. We knew it was more of a classic style, and we just sold and never stopped selling them, right? So sometimes that that push and pull between a more basic style that's maybe already, you know,
You just want to keep in stock. Another thing too to think about is a lot of the brands, they're moving ahead. So you started selling something and it's a best-selling style and you can't keep it in stock. That's a good time to start thinking about, can I source this directly so I can have it in stock for my customers? Because maybe they're not ready to move on. But a lot of your brands sometimes have moved on and they have stopped producing it. So that's another good time to think about bringing it in yourself.
Yeah, so that battle between trend and more basic. Okay, so this is the big question, right? We kind of covered it, I think, but what about minimums, right? That's always the question on the top of retailers' minds. So we do know that minimums have wildly gone down. You know, you used to not be able to talk to someone for under 400, 600 units, and now we are talking more in the 60 range. But you really have to make sure that with all the time, effort, energy, landing the goods, that it is going to cover the margin and really be able to get you further than one of your vendors can. Okay, so Sam, we're gonna go over to sourcing. What about a retailer that asks you, am I too small for a factory partner?
So I've had the pleasure of taking people overseas to China and India to take them into sourcing, to source raw materials and to produce directly from there. You're never too small to learn. And I think if you haven't made your way over to sourcing just to get the understanding of what it is that people are showing from the fabric level to pricing to countries and what each country is specialized in, because each country has a specialty and they have their cons and pros and cons. So it's a great way to get all of that in one area. So I would take people to China for 3 weeks at a time, spend thousands of dollars on the trip. But here you could just take a few steps away and go into an area that has a lot of resources from all over the world, vendors from all over the world that's going to be able to share and open up to you what they do and how they do it. But there's a little bit of a caveat to that and how you communicate with them and what you ask. If you are serious about starting production and working directly with factories, you got to go in there knowing how to speak their language. And I don't mean literally knowing how to speak Chinese, but knowing how to speak the language of a manufacturer, knowing what they're concerned about, knowing what their minimums are, knowing how to negotiate terms. When they give you pricing at sourcing, most of the times, 99% of the time, they're gonna give you FOB pricing, which means they're gonna give you pricing without any of the cost to ship, to clear customs, and to bring it to your store. So that's why some of the pricing, when you then actually add in the cost of your shipping and custom clearance, is gonna feel not as exciting. So that's always something that you're gonna have to know then how to calculate and add those pricing on top of. So as we do a quick walk and tour around sourcing, I'm gonna do my best to help you see what areas are good for which type of products, what countries, my experience in those different countries, and how to talk and negotiate with some of the factories. So hopefully this will be a good learning experience from all the failures that I had through doing production all over the world.
Yeah, let's all learn from Sam's failures. But so as we walk over, I don't want to hear anyone complaining because we could be going to China. So this is a much easier walk right over. And I think, Sam, something that you said that I really want to emphasize is that this is about education. You're here. Part of coming to Magic Vegas is that this is a full-blown marketplace. You have your fashion trend-driven product over here. You have young contemporary over there. You have men's at the project show. You have sourcing here. You are coming to Vegas not just to buy in your individual section. You are coming here to learn, to educate, and I know that because you're sitting here right now. So if you have never been to sourcing, even just starting to get the wheels turning, and like you said, speaking the language, tell us what FOB means.
Well, it's freight on board, and that's the payment that you do up until the port ends at the country that is being made. So if it's FOB China, that means the factory is going to take the merchandise to the port in China, and that's the cost. They're going to drop it off. Now it's on you to then get it from China to your store. PP, which is pre-production samples. And there's a lot of little terms that I think I told Dane I was going to send him over all of our little tidbits and little sheet that will help you and guide you in communicating and talking with future factories that you decide to work with. So I'll have that over to you.
Yeah, we'll get you guys a little cheat sheet on sourcing and private label. So I'm going to put this back up here. If anyone wants to scan, that will give you the copy of the presentation. We're going to take questions for 5 minutes, and then we're going to go on a tour of sourcing. So if you have the time, come join us. Me and Sam, I have some people on my team that are going to be joining us, and we're going to actually get our hands dirty. This is your opportunity to actually get over there, ask questions, and start to think through private label. So can everyone get that? We can't get it? Okay, move away, get out of here. Okay, hopefully that works.
And if nothing else, even if you're not ready to do your own production, I think this will give you good insights into how to communicate with your vendors now, to even talk to them about bringing stuff in for you. Maybe you can do bigger quantities, maybe you can negotiate a few pennies off here and there to help build your margins.
We'll take questions. I'm just scanning for people. Any questions before the tour? I got you. I gotta work for this. Look at that. There you go.
Or is it for buyers in general who might buy stuff for like Amazon, whatnot, your own private label shopper? Who is it for precisely?
Well, you missed the whole presentation, didn't you?
I just sat down. My bad.
No, but we'll tell you. Let's give it to you in a nutshell. That yes, there are a lot of different types of retailers that actually can shop over at sourcing. So the idea here is that you're going to have big retailers like an Amazon that's over there that are sourcing, working directly with factories and pumping out tens of thousands of units, but the game has changed and smaller retailers have a lot lower of an entry point. You're talking of MQ, minimum quantities around 60 units now in some factory relationships. So there is the ability to develop product with an easier entry point now, and that's what we're going to go over and teach people. Yes, sir.
So for example, if I'm buying a dress right next door at 29 bucks, it's a 6-pack. When I get to a quantity of 60, what's the drop point? Where are we at per unit, typically on that same exact dress?
Yeah, well, it depends on the dress, but if you look at the dress that Dane was showing up here on some of the, the fabrication and the sewing and the labor costs to bring it in, the cost, FOB cost might be at $10. But then you add in the cost of duty at 50%, 55%, and then the shipping cost. But then to get that dress designed, you also need to ship it to China. Either a strike off or something, you're gonna have to send it to them for reference. Shipping costs, just getting that one sample to China could cost $80. So now you've already added to that 60 pieces $1, just to even send the sample. So there's a lot of little hidden costs. In the initial look of it might sound exciting to make that margin, but then you have to also add in how many more of that are you gonna order? So you're gonna order it 10 more times? Then it might make sense. If you're gonna only order it once, then all those little costs that it takes to make that 60 pieces might not make sense. It might be better to pay $21 and be cheaper than paying going direct.
And I just want to make one point here, and a big disclaimer. It is a lot easier to walk in there and place an order with a brand and just walk away and get those units and turn it. We are not advocating that you start looking at everything in your store and start thinking, once I get to a certain level, we want a private label. But, and I will give you an example from my own experience. We did a lot of holiday dressing, and we always needed a little black, tight spandexy dress that had a little bit of pull to it and was just a body con. We sold hundreds. I would have to go to a new vendor. You didn't stop doing this style. You stopped doing this style. This one got too expensive. Eventually, that's where I started in dresses to develop my private label. I know I need a bodycon black dress short, and I will sell it year after year, season after season. That's where I started to put my money. So it's not about the, trendy, floral, asymmetrical dress. You do not want to start messing with that, maybe in the private, that's advanced private label. So it's when you start really building enough data to say, this is something that's big, I can sell a lot of this, and I'm not finding it from my vendors here. I don't want to miss sales on this. All right, we have time for one more question, and then we are gonna meet up right behind the stage for the tour. So one last question, and you'll be able to chat with us on the tour.
I think one last thing I want to mention before is cash flow. So just making sure when you're ready to go and do your own production and private label that you have a good financial basis and even a line of credit set up with the bank that's going to help support keeping your cash flow liquid. I've seen a lot of people get into it too early, put a lot of money up front. Here you can buy it and get it tomorrow. In China, or we do it overseas, it's going to be buy it and you get it 3 months from now, and you're having to put money up front. So just making sure that you're planning that out as you look at going private label.
All right, and a little shameless plug, if you do need help with cash flow management, please come talk to us at Management One. We'll be here for the next few days. I'm going to be back on stage here on Thursday talking again about private label. So if you've seen it, but tell your friends. But we'd be happy to talk to you about how we work with retailers to build in stable cash flow into your business through great inventory planning. We have one more question. One more quick question. We have two. We're going to all huddle up right over there. So we have to get the tour started. Come say hello. Anyone taking the tour, we're going to meet right up there and I will answer your question. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you at sourcing. Come over with us.